Rocket League is fulfilled with many important settings, and we have to know every single one to make our experience as sharp as it's possible. But there's some settings that you didn't know about, or you're just not aware of how important they are. And you have to change them, make them better in case of making your Rocket League experience better. Today we will get to know which settings are the most important, which settings are meta right now, and how to optimize your settings to make your gameplay experience as smooth and sharp as it's possible. Let's go! We will look through every tab of settings in Rocket League step by step, and I'll be telling you optimal settings for controller as well as KBM. First, not so important tab, but still. On gameplay tab, we have only one settings you have to change, if you haven't done it yet of course. It's obviously voice chat. Voice chat in Rocket League is kinda bugged and just not optimized, and you can't even change your microphone, you don't have such settings to do it. And everyone, even people with great, expensive microphones, will sound like a put into. It's just too distracting. So it's best to just turn it completely off. Even if you wanted to talk with your friends, other teammates, it's just pretty useless, because you have to hold the button to say something. Imagine wanting to say pass, and you have to hold your drive button, drift, turning, boost, and additionally hold voice button to say anything. It's pretty much useless. Either way, it's this or you'll be heard all the time, with this noise and everything, so choose. Second option would be to turn off crossplay, because some people say that console players are bad and they don't want to play with them. But I don't care and I don't see any difference, so it's up to you. Okay, let's get into next step, which is camera settings. This is a little bit more complicated, but first, turn off camera shake. You probably have the settings turned off, but I have to be sure. Then, camera POV have to be around maximum. You have to have as wide view as it's possible. Then, distance has to be around 160 to 300. You have to have your car in a close position, but not too close to see anything else besides car, and not too far. You have to see every little move of your car. Then, height. Just from 90 to 120 range is good. It will give you a good feeling of car and you'll have a good view of environment. Then we have an angle. You can't have this lower than -5. Standard is from -3 to -5. -5 gives you better car control, but you won't see as many as you would have been on -3. Depends on you. The last but not least is camera stiffness. This is tough, not gonna lie. People say that 1 stiffness is the hardest to play with. But I don't think this way. 1.0 on stiffness helped me to learn car control, because I've always seen the car in the same position and I could make the best adjustments until I was good enough to play faster with 0.4 stiffness. It's about you. If you feel good with 0.4 or 0.6 stiffness, it's just a standard range, play with this, but if you feel that your car control is a little bit rusty, change your stiffness to maximum or at least 0.9 and see if it's better. Swivel speed and transition speed are settings that is better to not touch, but if you want to have perfect pro-alike settings, swivel speed is either 3.5 to 4.5 or 7.5 to 8, and transition speed is either 1 or 1.5. It depends if you want to have very fast transitions between ball cam and car cam. Of course, all those settings work perfectly on controllers and on KBM, so you don't have to make any corrections due to other device. Okay, we finally can go into the next step, the most important step, of course, in my opinion, which is controls. So yeah, controls. Let's start with dead zones and sensitivity. It's only for controllers, of course. About dead zone. Best setting for dead zone is 0.05. It's a value that most pros have and it's probably the most optimal value for this setting. But there's one catch. If you have a stick drift, it's a problem when your analog is dirty inside, just worn out. How to check it? Just go to this side and see if your left stick moves correctly and stays under 0.05 value. Move it around, move it with force, move it just a little bit, delicate, and you will know if you have to change your dead zone settings to higher value or if you can leave it on lower values. It's very important, because if your controller is worn out and you still will set dead zone at, for example, 0.05, your car will move, turn on its own. And it's kinda bad to not being able to control your car completely. I myself have dead zone on 0.07 because it's still a good value and you don't have to have it exactly on 0.05. I would say the best values are between 0.05 and 0.15, but the lower is the better, of course. Dash dead zone is good at about 0.4 and 0.6. Best values. Now let's jump into sensitivity. It's a little bit more complicated. Pros don't have any good range, just like with camera stiffness or dead zone. Here, from my personal opinion, you have to go higher every time you improve. It's just like I did, and I think I'm better with every match. Start your journey with standard 1.0. After some improvements, go like 0.1 higher and go on. Stop when you will feel that it's too fast for you. Control vibrations should be turned off and ball camera should be set to toggle. Period. I just don't need to explain this, you will thank me later. Okay, now we have to see some of controlling bindings. As you know or you don't, we have only one change here. You have to bind at least one arrow button, left or right, to one of our keys. Personally, I like to squish arrow left on square button on my PS4 controller. It takes some time to get used to arrow-rolling during areas, but it's very crucial binding in case of doing some stuff that will be impossible to do without this binding. You just have to keep up with meta. Bind it to R1 maybe L1, as you wish. Just make sure that one of these bindings will be available for you. New meta, boys! Now about keyboard settings. You don't have to touch basically anything besides view changed binding step. As you know, or you don't, I haven't played on KBM ever. That's why I will just take some most common settings for KBM from Liqu. Best KBM player in the world, by the way. Everything on default, but camera swivel up on C and down on R. It helps you to see more during games, especially in a situation where you have the ball close to you and you don't see an opponent. That's it for KBM players, really. He has camera left and right on E and Q too. But his arrow settings are pretty weird, so I don't know if it's recommended to change it. Just like with Rizzo's settings, it's just kinda messed up and basically only them plays with settings like this. So to the next step. Interface tab is very important too, because we'll find here one crucial setting. It's of course nameplate scale. Turn it up. Just about 150%. It will help you to see if your opponent is closer to you or if he's backing up. It's very important to see where your opponents and teammates are, and this setting will help you with this tough decision. For interface tab, I think it's everything. Someone says that turning off ball cam indicator is good too, but I don't see any problem with this little plate that doesn't cover up basically anything in this game. Do what you want with it. And last of this all, video settings tab. Here you have to know one thing. Input lag. It's a problem with many devices that it delays your click on keyboard controller. If you click on your jump, turn, boost, gas, you expect your controller to react immediately, right? And input lag slow it down to, let's say, 30 milliseconds. It's almost nothing, you say, but it really destroys your skill. You have this real heavy car back and you won't do anything the way you would have do without this input lag. How to eliminate this? Make sure that your display mode is turned to full screen and your VSync is turned off. And most importantly, turn completely off your anti-aliasing. That could be it. I have my max FPS turned to 120 instead of my 60Hz display because I have a little stutters when I change it to 60 FPS. Okay, less audio and chat tabs won't influence your gameplay, so do it with anything you want. That's it for today's video. It was supposed to be a short, informative video, but it turned out to be kinda longer than I expected it to be. Well, if you like it, subscribe to my channel. It motivates me a lot to make more videos with even better quality. Remember, it's only a game. Bye bye.